So Stellaris! Now, big fans of mine might remember a few years ago, I did produce some videos on this. I sunk a few days in, learned how it worked, excitedly presented it. I have been playing the game since then. I own the DLCs, the expansions. It's one of the biggest time sinks. And for years, since those early videos I made, I've wanted to do a mini-series for you all with a very special and cool idea, which is what we're going to be looking at here. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. You might not have any idea what this game is or how it works. Essentially, it's a grand strategy game in space with some like 4X elements in there, but some get emphasized over time and some do not. But basically, if you know nothing about this, don't worry. I'm going to treat you that way and teach you things slowly and easily as we go forward. So you will be entertained by this. You will be able to see what story is going to unfold and how we're going to play. Don't worry. I will cover all the basics for you. And even, I'm going to not present some of the expansion stuff right here in this mini-series, just because we don't need the added layers of complexity dragging us down, so to speak. So, yeah, let's keep it simple. Let's jump on in. I'm going to hit new game here. So after we hit new game, we're going to be able to make a decision of empire. You can see that we have the United Nations of Earth here, which should be very familiar to us. These are your bog standard humans. These are actually who I'm going to be playing. But the idea of Stellaris is, at the beginning of the game, you are taking control of a vast civilization that has kind of conquered their planetary homeworld, has got rid of most internal strife, though not all, and has now just discovered a mechanism for moving faster than light. They've discovered these things called hyperlanes, which if you get outside of your solar system, you can hitch a ride on and they'll take you to other solar systems nearby in the galaxy. When the game came out, there were other ways of traveling faster than light. This is the main one that the game has now. And the idea is, in Stellaris, you are heading out there and seeing what aliens you might come across. The game's really cool in that what it actually does is not only am I going to pick an empire, but right as I pick one at the very beginning of the game, it's going to spawn tons of them all around the galaxy. And they all have their own fully simulated economies and tech progression and stuff going on in parallel to mine. Basically, the AI is playing other legitimate empires at the same time. In fact, there's a command in this game where you can just swap and control any empire you like. So think of it as a game of kind of almost racing against these other empires to explore uncharted space and see who's out there and kind of do what you want to do in the galaxy. So, yeah, we're going to play the humans. Of course, we do have some story. We've got, well, our home world is going to be Earth. It's of the continental world class, which will be relevant in a second. Don't worry, I won't overbear you with information. Our leader is this lovely lady called Dolores Mwanga. And we get some basic details about who we are. First, there's some lore down here and an example of one of our ships. It says, the myriad human nations that constitute their interstellar government are disparate, yet united in purpose. These bipedal mammalians have developed a society that encourages and even thrives on individual freedoms and cultural differences. As a result, humans tend to integrate well with alien populations. Despite this, they have a strong martial traditions produced by millennia of intermittent warfare on their homeworld, and they are sometimes aggressive, and unpredictable nature should not be underestimated. So this information tells us a little bit about who we are if we're picking the Empire. But also, if we were just playing a game as some alien species, you might find humans out there. I mean, it all comes down to pot luck. But if you do, then this is the kind of information you'd have to think about when you're interacting with humans. So humans as a species have a couple of different traits that change the way they play. So humans are, in this game, adaptive. Supposedly we have high habitability. We're highly adaptive when it comes to foreign environments, maybe partly because of the continental world we come from, which has, you know, lots of different disparate climates. We're very nomadic. This species has a nomadic past, and its members often think about relocating to another world. So we get a couple of bonuses about actually traveling the stars and finding new planets to live on. But also we're wasteful. Members of this species seemingly have no concept of frugality and are prone to useless consumption. Which is kind of cool. I like this. You know, the studio Paradox actually had to think about what you would consider humans to be. And then not only does the species get some traits, but also how is our empire actually run? You get some decisions here as well. So we are a representative democracy, okay? The idea in this game is that the de facto world government, as it were, that ended up, you know, taking over Earth at this stage in our history. This is about 200 years in the future. is a representative democracy. This government is a representative democracy where citizens vote on officials who are elected to represent them. So everyone gets a say in how the empire is run. That will affect our gameplay, okay? So we're going to hold elections every 10 years as we go forward. We have regular elections where all citizens can vote on who should represent them. Then we get some ethics, like how we feel about the world. So we're xenophilic. The idea of being xenophilic is that we love aliens, basically, or we love an exploration of the unknown and the mysterious. We're not scared of it. We embrace it, okay? We're philic. So a little motto here, or a defining idealism, is described as: there exists in all of us a deep-seated fascination for the unknown, an adventurous spirit that rejects the familiar and glories in the unfamiliar, whatever or whenever it may be. So with xenophilic, that's going to be important, because when we meet people in space, if they are ideologically aligned to us, i.e. they're also xenophilic, cool, then we'll get along. But maybe they'll have different views and they won't gel with us. And then we have another ethic as well. We are fanatically egalitarian. So being fanatic means we're just really, really, really in that direction. We could have been fanatically xenophilic if we'd wanted, but that's kind of not what the default humans are like in Stellaris. They are regular xenophilic, but fanatic egalitarian. So in Stellaris, egalitarian basically just means everyone has a say. If you're going to be a democracy, you have to be egalitarian, right? We are fanatically so, and we say, beware always those who would be despots, under the false presumption that their desires and agendas are somehow more imperative than those of their fellows. A society that does not see to the needs and rights of all its members is not a society, it is a crime. So we are really, really all about that democracy, okay? Finally, there's two little things here called civics. These are small modifiers for the way we play the game. We are a beacon of liberty. This society is a shining beacon of light in a sea of darkness. Liberty and individual freedoms are held in highest regard here. And we have an idealistic foundation. This society was founded on strong idealistic values. Whether the current government remains true to them or not, the people have not forgotten. And so our people are a little bit happier and so on. So what civics you can pick is and what kind of authority you have. Are you a democracy or are you imperial? Do you have kings and queens, stuff like that? Is kind of based on your ethics. So everything spirals together and cleanly, tightly comes together. That's it. That's the humans. Let's jump into the game and see what we've got. So here there is an empire creation screen, which I have customized. I'm not going to go over all these details. That'll be for a later video at a later point. Let's just start the game now and see what we've got. So a lot of this game is randomly generated. What is going to happen here is I don't know whether we'll have a good start, whether we'll have a bad start, or what. This could go terribly, and in fact, I like to play in very hostile, very dangerous galaxies, okay? So the way I tend to have the game calibrated is there is a chance for me to lose. This is a game where if you make it too easy, and to be honest, that's very easily done, it can go on forever and ever and ever and ever and waste days and weeks of your life. If we're going to do a mini-series, then it's going to be quite a hostile mini-series. So If I wipe and die, it could be over. My goal here is to play for 300 years. Yeah, it's quite a long time, but believe it or not, 300 years is actually the smallest campaign you can do. So, the first really important thing to look at as we are in-game here, alright, this is Earth, beautiful. And, you know, I can center it on there, North America, or over my home somewhere beneath these clouds, okay? The first thing to pay attention to is the top right. This is really important for the game, and it is the date. So, currently we are on the 1st of January, in the year 2200. So like I said, we start about 200 years in the future from the real world. And the game is going to end at the year 2500. That's when I've calibrated it. So that's 300 years away. What I really wanted was this to be 250 years, because that's quite a significant number to me. But I actually can't go any shorter than that, all right? So when 300 years have passed, the game's going to tally all the empires all across the galaxy and decide who won based on, you know, their economic power or their military might or their research potential and so on. We'll deal with those later. Basically, I just want to see if I can win in 300 years, okay? And I'm not sure I will, to be perfectly honest, but we'll see how it goes. So, yeah, here we are at Earth. And in fact, if I pull away a little bit here, you will see that this is, in fact, our solar system here. So this is Venus. Oh, well, hold on. We need to read this before we probably go exploring. So here's what they say at the beginning. There's just a list down of our stuff again, which I already gave you guys. Much has happened since the modern humans first emerged in Africa some 200,000 years ago. Our kind spread rapidly across most of the globe, and soon the first civilizations took form. Scientific progress has been swift, though not without cost. Wars claimed millions of lives, even before the atom was tamed, and the turmoil of the 21st century saw the mandate of the United Nations gradually expanded in an effort to create stability. By the early 22nd century, the supernatural organization had become a de facto world government. Now, if you guys don't like this lore, you can write your own. You can play any kind of human you like. In fact, in Stellaris, there are 2 different human empires. There's a really cool story about how years ago, some members of the United Nations of Earth went traveling out into the stars and got lost. And it turns out they actually survived. They're somewhere else in the galaxy. And we may even have a chance to run into them. So, you know, and those guys are way more aggressive and not very nice. Let's just put it that way. We're playing, like, nice good guys here that love aliens and just want to talk to people. I'm going to tell you now, guys, that's not necessarily a good and easy way to play. I'm kind of worried. Anyway, so yes, that is what the United Nations of Earth are. Though some still resent the power wielded by the UN, as evidenced during the Mauritian police action of '88, few can deny the technological breakthroughs that have come out of its sponsored research programs. With the recent completion of the first true starships, mankind is about to embark on a new era of space exploration. So we can begin. So, alright. Now, some of you guys may think you know Stellaris because you watched my earlier videos, maybe, or you played it a bit when it came out. The game has changed a ton. I'm going to go over those changes, but in addition to that, I have got some very slight mods on here. What I'm doing is mostly vanilla, but I have been coding up a couple of my own mods based on some really important stuff I think should be emphasized in this game. And for this mini-series I'm doing for you all, which I know you're all going to be very curious about. Don't worry, we'll see when we see. So, I do just want to be clear, most of what you're looking at is a vanilla experience, but it is going to be very different to what it was a couple of years ago. Namely, this opening solar system here, we've actually already got surveyed. So, let's talk a little bit about what we can do at the very beginning. And in fact, I think where it might be nice to start is to look at our ships. So, this is a science vessel. Now, we can order the science vessel around to do whatever we want as we move around. Generally, even though we're in space and we could go up and down, we are in, you know, a flat plane, okay? So, the science vessel's job is to explore. And if you look on the bottom left down here, you'll see that we have various jobs we can give this vessel. And it looks pretty cool, doesn't it? All the different most different alien empires have different kinds of ships that they can use. So we could survey. ordering it to survey the stars, planets, asteroids. Surveying reveals detailed information about stuff that's out there once we go through a hyperlane. We can find anomalies and research those. We can tell it to be evasive or passive as it travels the world. You know, if it sees danger, is it going to run away or is it just going to chill? And we can even tell it to assist research at our planet. We won't worry about that. And then some other late game ones that are locked off. So the idea of the science ship is that in this game now, the only kind of vessel that can explore uncharted space is a science ship. So let's have a look at a hyperlane. On the very edge of the solar system, is this the Cupia belt? Is that what this belt is? I can't remember. Anyway, you'll see that there's this arrow here saying unknown. That means that basically somewhere out here beyond the boundaries is a hyperlane, and it will take us to somewhere we have absolutely no idea where it is. And there's also one over here. So where the hyperlanes are is randomly generated, and where they connect to is going to be randomly generated in general. When you play humans, there's one kind of particular thing that you find every time, but we'll get to that in a second. So our science ship will be able to go into one of these hyperlanes. When the game first came out, the science ship had to also survey the initial solar system, like this one, like we have Mars over here. But this stuff's already surveyed in the game now. The idea is, you know, we're 200 years in the future. What's important is we just discovered hyperlanes. We already know most of what's going on in our own, you know, neighborhoods. So that stuff doesn't matter. And that stuff's already surveyed. So, yeah, how about we do that? Let's grab a science ship. On the right-hand side, you've got this thing here called the outliner. This is where we're going to focus a lot. It tells us all of our stuff. So, for example, this is Earth, okay? And we can snap straight to Earth if we like. Here is a star base that we have, okay? Which we'll talk about in a minute. We have some military fleets, but, of course, I was just looking at the science ship. So, what I'm going to do with this science ship is I'm going to tell it to go into this hyperlane here, and I can tell it to survey the system or to just explore it. We'll go just explore for now. Now, one of the little tweaks I've done with the game is, for reasons you guys will hopefully see maybe in a behind the scenes later or something, is I actually start the game with 2 science ships. Everyone starts with 2 science ships. It's very trivial to get your second one. I've just automated getting the first one. And, well, there's 2 science ships and 2 hyperlanes, so let's send this guy out over here. So, talking about the science ship just a little bit more, there are some other little interesting things going on here. Namely that inside this vessel, we do have a hero, a leader, a commander, okay? So that is a scientist. You'll see his name is Takereyu Yamakaze, all right? So he has a little trait down here that says he gets more experience because he's adaptable. So different leaders have different traits. If we go to the other science ship on the other side, you'll see she actually has the same one, but this is Anaya Piali. As these guys explore, they'll get experience, they'll level up, their traits will change, they'll get better at surveying and doing all kinds of fun things. So, and finding anomalies and mysteries out there among the stars. So one other fun thing you can do is actually rename the ships themselves. So Anaya's in there, but the ship is the UNS Spare Science Vessel, okay? This is the spare one. If I click it, I can just rename it to be whatever the hell I want it to be. So I tend to like renaming my fleets, but I don't know how much I'll waste your time. I'll call this guy the Celsius, all right? So this is our ship that's off to explore the world. Did I spell that right? I think I did. So we'll call this the Celsius. And now if you look on the right, it says Science Ship the Celsius. Meanwhile, over here, we have our original one. This is the UNS Columbus. We could leave it as the Columbus, but I will call it the Fahrenheit. Again, my spelling, I'm really so nervous about my spelling now that it's on a video. But there you go. So those guys are going to go off. They're going to explore. They're going to go do their thing. In fact, oh yeah, that's fine. Okay, so what else have we got? Well, we have these other 2 ships here. And again, usually you start with 1. I've made it so that you start with 2. Now, these are construction ships. Construction ships are one of the things that I actually changed most with the game. Construction ships are all about building things out in space. Actually taking resources that are out there and being able to grab them for ourselves. So you'll see here we can build star bases, we can build mining stations, research stations, observation posts, and once again we get our fleet stance and later mega structures, but again that's an end game thing. And once again they have a ship name. This is the Adriatic. So the idea of this game is that As we expand and we find new worlds to go live on, that's going to be one of my first goals. I'd really like to get a colony outside of the solar system. As we do that, we need lots of resources to keep our people happy or to wage war and so on. So let's talk a bit about resources now. All the resources in general in the whole game are up here. This is called the top bar. And on the very top left, you'll see the icon for our government. And when we click it, we can learn a little bit about our government. We'll do that later. But all across the top, can you see these icons with all of these freaking, like, you know, white numbers everywhere? These are our resources as we have them at the start of the game. So the first 6 of them are generally really important. And then later, they become slightly more obscure mechanics. And then it's just more information, right? So we'll run through. First, there's energy credits. Energy credits is basically the game's currency. This is what you'll be able to trade among other alien empires and out in the stars and when doing whatever. And it's generated through anything that would create power. So if you build geothermal facilities, you can get power. Well, that's basically money for you. If you build solar farms, then that's basically money for you. If you tap into the tides on some particularly violent ocean planet, well, then that can become, you know, energy for you. So that's a really important one. You can trade this energy for any of the others. So if you're really low, if you start going bust, you know, your people are starving, as long as you've got money from generating power, you can do things with it. If you play as robots, by the way, there's loads you can do in this game. You can play all kinds of empires. If you play as robots, the energy doubles up as food as well. So let's talk about food. It should be pretty basic to you guys. Your people need this to eat, to live. So what this stockpile is representing is the global food of the whole empire. So right now we only live on Earth, and Earth is producing food. Earth has farms on it. We'll deal with exactly how we see that soon. But when we get more planets, well, more people means more food is needed. So as you're expanding, you need to keep creating food. And for standard empires, what that kind of means is you're going to have some worlds filled with cities, filled with people living on them. But you're also going to have like fringe worlds that are like the breadbasket of your empire and actually shipping that stuff back. In general, you won't actually see it get shipped around. The food is, as a global resource pool, is being distributed to your planets sort of behind the scenes. That's how that works. So you got food, you got money. The next really important one is minerals. These, as you can see, there are actually some over here at Mars. You'll see beneath Mars, there's that mineral icon there. It says that there's 7. What minerals are is anything that we use to just build, basically. If you want to build new special buildings over on Earth, and there's a lot you can do with Earth. If you want to make new cities on Earth, if you want to make new power generation plants, then a lot of this stuff costs minerals. Also, if you want to build in space, like our construction ships would do, a lot of them are spending minerals. See, if I look at this mining station option down here, you'll see that it says building mining stations will cost 100 minerals. We only have 500, so we'd run out pretty quick. The idea of the game is to take your construction ships and fly them around in search of new materials out in space and to collect them, which is exactly what we can do already, believe it or not. So, for example, if we click Build Mining Station, you'll see that it highlights Jupiter, and it highlights one of Jupiter's moons, Callisto. So we've got a choice here. We can collect 2 energy from Jupiter, or we can collect 3 minerals from Callisto. So I'm actually going to pick the energy from Jupiter right here. And what's going to happen now is you see that there's this orange line. This orange line represents that our construction ship is now on a job to go do this. And even better, what I can do is tell it to build at Jupiter, and then I can tell it to immediately come build at Callisto as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold shift, and I'm going to click build mining station, and I'm going to build a mining station there as well. So what you can see now is in orbit of Jupiter, there's like this little ghosted out icon here, and then there's another one now near Callisto. What these are mining stations. So there's mining districts and great mines you can build on planets, but sometimes you want just a little bit of resource from something out in space, like here at Jupiter. And what's going to happen is our construction ship is going to fly over, and when it gets here, it's going to make a station in orbit of Jupiter. And that station, the workers who live there out in, you know, these remote areas of space, it never sounds very pleasant to me. At that civilian station, they will take this energy and they will do something with it. Or they will take these minerals and they'll do something with these. So the thing with the construction ships is the way I like to play the game is I like them slow. Okay, so we're playing super slow here with the time. The time is moving very, very slowly, so you can hardly see him crawling along, but don't worry about that. We'll talk about that more in a second. But basically, he's vulnerable as he's out doing that, and we might like to protect him. So that is something I'm going to do immediately. You also start the game with 3 of these ships. Now, these are pretty quick ships, relatively. These are corvettes. I've got a single corvette here, and then I've got 2 corvettes here that will fly around together. So what I'll do is with my individual corvette, I'm going to tell it, go protect the construction ship. So now forever, wherever that construction ship goes, this corvette is going to fly after him. And the corvette is set to aggressive. If anyone tries to mess with that construction ship, then they're going to have to go through my corvette to be able to do so. Construction ships are really slow and really expensive. With how I like to play in vanilla, you can kind of just spam them and they're pretty quick. The way I'm going to be playing it in this mini-series is they're slow, but they're also expensive, but they're tanky, okay? So they'll actually survive a lot of heat if they're getting attacked, but our corvettes are going to be defending them. And then we have these other 2 corvettes here. I could continue having them fly around together. All right, so if I make the speed at a normal speed here, you'll see that they move around. They do what they want. Or I could split them up, and that's actually what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to hit V, and now we can control them all individually, all right? And with them all controlled individually, I'm going to assign this to this science ship, who's actually already gone through the hyperlane, which is pretty cool. So that science ship's going to have an escort. And now this science ship all the way over here is going to have an escort as well, okay? And I'll show you what that looks like in a second. I know that probably looked a little bit messy there. So what have we got now? Well, we've got our corvettes escorting our science ships that are out exploring new worlds out through the hyperlanes. We've got a construction ship building some stuff over at Jupiter. Well, here's our final construction ship. He can he can build research stations. So research stations are orbital stations too, just like you'd expect from collecting energy or minerals. But instead they get research. So you see this weird icon here? This is society research. And we can build an orbital station here for that. And you'll see that there's a little thing is going to be built here right next to our starbase. So what is research? Well, that's probably the thing that any Stellaris, main players who have been watching this this video so far have been screaming at me to do. So as we progress through the game, we can unlock technology. Think of it kind of like leveling up our empire, okay? So right now, I just have these really basic, silly little ships all over the place, right? They don't really do too much. Some of the ships that I have could do more, but don't do more, and so on, right? Like when we look at a science ship, it can't automatically explore or do experimental subspace navigation, whatever is that. We'll deal with that later. So all of that stuff, that leveling up stuff, that's done through technology. So up here, just below the top bar, you can see that I've got 3 orange squares. A blue one, a green one, a yellow, orange one. Each of these is a type of research. Blue is physics, green is society, engineering is yellow-orange with the cog, okay? So not only do I have 2 scientists in my ships, but I also have some scientists that are on Earth doing research there. Now, these guys aren't just like lone scientists. You got to remember, this is 200 years in the future when we've unified in some massive, governmental organization over the whole world. There are cities everywhere. I mean, look at this at night, right? Each of these scientists here, these are like massive, huge department heads for enormous initiatives across right now just Earth, but eventually our whole empire. Like, these are bigwigs, okay? They're not just random grunts. And these guys are deciding what the hell we want to focus on in general. And they will work on that as time goes by. So at the very start of the game, we do actually begin with certain researches already done. Well, actually, just to finish off that other point here, going back over to our construction ship, just to be clear, since he's going over now to Venus, what he's going to do is the construction ship is going to build a little science station in orbit of Venus, and they are going to spend their days researching this society. The society research will never run out. They'll just study it from afar, okay? The energy over at Jupiter will never run out. The mining potential at Callisto will never run out. That just means we are going to start gaining an extra 3 every month, okay? And that's why, if you look over here, we get 25 food a month right now. We have 277 food, but we get 25 every month. And we have 585 energy, and we're getting 28 every month, which is quite a good amount, okay? So the game is, we want to get our monthly income up and up and up and up, and then we want to spend it on new planets and stuff like that. Okay, so anyway, back over to Venus. Well, you might wonder, well, why is there society research at Venus? Well, it says here, this is a rocky planet with a thick atmosphere that is lethal to all known higher forms of life. So maybe what we're doing is we're studying these atmospheric conditions, and they will help us in various research initiatives as we go forward. In general, it's just society research that's getting pulled up, okay? At every single place that we want to click, really, will have some kind of cool information. So, for example, over at Jupiter, it says it's a gaseous planet with an atmosphere primarily composed of hydrogen and helium surrounding a dense core. If you want to take this game slow, believe me, and I like taking games slow, you guys probably know that. You can take it slow. You can read about all this stuff. This is a frozen world. It's uninhabitable. A rocky world covered in a thick layer, permanently frozen ice. Low temperatures and a very thin atmosphere precludes the existence of life on the surface, but it does have some resources there. So you can like examine so many different places. Here's Io, okay, a molten world. And you'll find that in general, a lot of this stuff's quite realistically done and synchronized for what the real solar system would be like. A rocky world that is scorching hot. The atmosphere is thin or non-existent, and lava in the interior flows freely through due to constant volcanic eruptions. The type of planet cannot sustain organic life, okay? But you never know what we might find that can live in any kind of planet. Right now, as Earthlings, we can only do so much, but as we travel, we'll find a lot more types of worlds, habitable worlds, than just Earth, and we might want to make friends who can live there for our empire. So, going back to research. That's what this is being represented by, where are we? Over here, okay? So it says every month we get 24 physics, we get 24 society, we get 24 engineering. And we're spending that on these. Now, so far, I've been letting, you know, we've gone through 4 months, okay? It's March already, and I haven't told these guys to research anything yet. Don't worry about that if you're in a similar position. Any research that your department heads haven't been dealing with will just get stockpiled, and then you get double speed for the next few months until your stockpile runs out. So it's really not a big deal if these are, you know, flagged. Oh, you need to, if you want to start doing research, and I could have been researching for 4 months already, don't worry. It just means that for the next 2 months, I'll go at double speed, and then we will have spent through our stockpile we collected. Does that make sense? It's kind of one of the little obscure mechanics in the game. So anyway, you start the game with some research. In truth, the vanilla game actually starts you with tons now. Back when Stellaris first released, there were an enormous amount of things that you could go through at the very beginning of the game. Like researching, exploring your very own solar system. You would actually have to survey it, and you'd have to build a lot of the mining stations here. You can see that several of our mining stations have actually already been constructed. I didn't tell anyone to build anything over here, right, at this giant asteroid, 136472 Makamake, which I'm guessing is a real thing, an ice asteroid. This has 8 minerals on it. You might have noticed I've actually got a lot of good stuff here. I feel like I maybe rolled lucky, or maybe there's not actually that much variance here. But there's already a mining station here. The humans did this before the year 2200, basically. It never used to be this way. You used to have to learn a lot of research stuff before you even got out of your your home system. I've kind of reverted the game a little bit. One of the little mini mods that I implemented to do this mini series with you guys, I kind of reverted it a little bit just so that you guys can see me build some of this, right? It was going to be better for us as noobs. So let's first see what we already know from physics. Before the game began, what did the humans learn? Well, here's the big one: hyperspace travel. So we have a hyperdrive that we can put on our ships. You can design custom most ships in the game. It's really cool. We'll look at that later. But basically, our ships are equipped with a hyperdrive that lets them go through the hyperlanes. It says here, like the strands of a spider web, the extra-dimensional realm of hyperspace runs between the gravity wells of most stars. Faster than light travel is theoretically possible along these hyperlanes. That's what we thought before we researched it, and now we do have them. So we can travel along the hyperlanes. We've also learned how to build generator districts over on Earth. Capacitors capable of storing vast amounts of energy is one of the cornerstones for any modern civilization. We've learned how to equip our ships with fission reactors. This energy source generates power for ships. That's basically just a necessary component to get your ships to move, okay? We know fission power. And we know how to make research labs, all right? And you see these are all just called starting techs. The research labs, testable predictions of observable phenomena. And that's it. That's all we really know from physics. They mentioned this thing here called the generator district. If we go over to Earth, okay, there's a lot of complicated stuff going on here. You can see that we've got a governor. You can see a little representation of Earth in the background there. Pay attention to this as the mini-series goes along, because you will find that the cities that are being shown back there grow and build as the worlds do. But all I want you to look at right now, all I want you to look at is this section on the left, districts. It's probably the most important bit to look at. So there are 4 different kinds of districts at the start of the game for standard people. There are cities we can build, there are generators we can build, there are mines we can build, and there are farms we can build, okay? i.e. the main resources that we're looking to collect. So basically, if we build a generator, and you'll see that Earth already has 2 out of a potential 6 here. If we build a generator district, then people can go to work there as they are born and our population rises, and they'll become technicians. And technicians create energy for us. It's that simple. Every generator district we build can create 2 new technician jobs on the planet, and each of those technicians can give us 8 energy, okay? So that would be another 16. We could just build 1 generator and we would get another 16 energy. That's pretty goddamn good. Of course, we need the population to fill those jobs, but we'll get to that later. So anyway, we know how to build energy ones from our physics research, okay? Now let's look at what we already knew about society before the game starts. Well, there's only 2. We have a building on the planet called a planetary government. Once a colony's been firmly established and pioneers turn into citizens, the need of a local strong government providing stability trumps the colonial need for flexibility. So basically, when we go to new worlds, we will be able to build planetary administrations on them. An administration is like a really essential building on a planet that gives you a ton of stuff. Okay, we won't worry about much else. And we can also build precinct houses, monuments to law and order, and so enforcers and people that keep the peace will come from these places. So we know that. And we know how to make agriculture districts. Large-scale industrial farms growing nutrient-rich produce, allowing a civilization to grow its population manifold. So yeah, basically, we can make food. Then finally, there's engineering. Now, engineering, you do get a few. I'll go through these a little bit quicker. But basically, we know how to make construction ships. The construction ship allows for the assembly of various space stations through advanced welding drones. In fact, that's true. When we have a look in a second here, let me see how close one of our construction ships is. I've had the game on pause, so they're not moving at the moment. But when they get there, I think this guy will come first. You see, when he gets in orbit, he's going to build it with little drones. It's pretty cool. You've also got... where are we? Mining stations, research stations. Research stations can study various planetary phenomena from orbit, gathering very valuable scientific data. And mining stations can extract planetary deposits of minerals and valuable resources from orbit. We know how to make mining districts. Mechanized mining. The application of mechanical engineering to mineral extraction is a fundamental requirement for any industrial society. So we've got awesome mines, basically. These mining towns and resource extraction centers drill deep into the mantle to access mineral deposits. So we're actually, when they say mine, we're talking about futuristic 200 years in the future mines. So here you go. Check out the drones, right? They're pretty cool. And you'll actually see that there's an animation. It's gradually filling in the wireframe that we had. And so, yeah, the construction ship's going to take time to get to a place, and then he's going to take time to actually build a thing. At any point during this, he's vulnerable. But it's okay, because we never actually sent a Corvette to this one, so this guy is actually legitimately vulnerable if it was a bit later in the game. I mean, we're right at the start. We're not going to get attacked in the first few months. Don't worry about that. Okay, so what else do we get for engineering? Resource silos. We can expand our capacity for, you know, all our various materials. We don't have to worry about that too much. But we do have some other industrial buildings we can get. The basic infrastructure that's required to become a spacefaring civilization. We know how to make alloy, foundries, and civilian industries. We'll deal with those later. There's chemical thrusters. So remember our ship? We learned fission power to power a ship. Well, we've also got thrusters to move around. Simple yet moderately effective chemical thrusters that rely on combustible propellant to function. So basically, this is how our ships are actually drifting through space. Later, we can learn and unlock even better thrusters that make them move faster. We have various types of space stations that we've learned how to build. And we already have one that's been floating in orbit. I haven't talked to you guys about that just yet. So the earlier star bases were little more than makeshift outposts. Permanent starports enable us to maintain a firm grip on star systems. The outpost itself here is just a centralized space installation built in close orbit around the system, necessary to make full use of its resources. We know about corvettes. The fast-than-light breakthrough allowed early attempts to adapt traditional surface-to-space shuttle frames to military applications, and finally create relatively small, fast, and maneuverable vessels with limited firepower. So basically, we have little ships that can fight, and we've learned about science ships. The science ship is used as a base of operations for a top scientist, ready to explore the vastness of space. You can think of the science ship as a bit, you know, they're like the Enterprise. The various, you know, the various iterations of the Enterprise from Star Trek or whatnot. You know, there are exploration vessels, and you can name them after whatever sci-fi you quite enjoy. So that is all the tech we already have. I know that was a bit mouthful, guys, but believe me, the vanilla game, there's even more that you start with, and it's just all information you're expected to know. We can take our time and research this stuff. In the meantime, check it out. Look, this guy's about to be finished. So when we click, if you look in the bottom left, it says that it's building the Venus Research Station, and it's got a percentage that's slowly ticking up. What I will say, by the way, is it wasn't necessarily true that Venus always has some society research. If I restarted the game, you might find there was different research somewhere else.
Construction completed.
So there you go. The UNS Rhine completed the construction of a research station in the orbit of Venus. So there you go. And we now get extra society. If I mouse over my researches, you'll see that we're getting more society than we were anything else now, which is cool. And what we could do is task the construction ship to go build something else if we want. But, I don't know, there you go. And all the way over here at Triton, very, very sneaky all the way over here, you'll see that there is actually another thing for them to do. So, we'll send them off. And, yeah, the research station will just work away. Now, this station does have health, okay? It has hull and it has armor. And if aliens come over, they can destroy it. If they destroy it, I lose the resource. So I might want to, you know, patrol corvettes around to defend my systems, stuff like that. In general, they should be safe. And the reason for that is because we do have a starbase. So starbases are really important. As we explore the world, or the galaxy, I should say, we're going to be building starbases. The idea is the science ship is going to examine alien solar systems. And if no one's living there, if it's safe and it's fine, we can send a construction ship to build this massive facility. So the scales are kind of all off, right? Like, I think the idea is that this research station is way smaller than the starbase is. But the starbase is, you can just imagine this enormous place, all right? It's your Deep Space Nine or whatever. And what it can do is project like a military force across the entire solar system. And if any aliens were to come here and were to attack us, I'm being very fear-mongery, you know, we're playing the humans, we're supposed to be xenophilic here. But if they were to do that, this thing can defend us, okay? You know, and we can upgrade it with various defenses, and we can change what it's got on it. But basically the idea is the science ship will investigate, then we'll build a starport. You'll see that in a second, an outpost, and then we can do whatever we want after that. We can build all of our other things. So yeah, let's let him move along. And I think that's most of the basics, really, about collecting stuff. What we can do now is actually assign some new research, okay? So what do we want to do? Well, so Joanna Stewart here, she has the spark of genius. This leader is prone to sudden bursts of inspiration. Meanwhile, this lady has more experience gain. And this lady is really good, but only in one kind of technology. That's voidcraft. Following years of study, she's considered an expert within the field of voidcraft. So basically, if we don't like those traits, we could just hire a new scientist somewhere, right? We could take Abras Al-Hamzi, this guy here, and he would be good for military theory. We'd have to spend money to do it. They all want money, and they want upkeep money. But you could do that. You could chop and change, and you could really try and min-max. We're not going to have to worry about that too much just yet. But so, yeah, she's got the spark of genius, so she's pretty good. She'll actually research faster than the other two. You can see that there's 12% here. Meanwhile, the other two go only 2%. We can tell her what to focus all of our physics industries on for the next little while, okay? And so there are three options. We could learn about reactor boosters, we could learn about red lasers, or we could learn about deflectors. So these are all about ships, really. Now, we got these three options. You can think of this like drawing cards from a deck. Okay, we've got a deck. There's loads of potential different technologies that we might be able to research. We happen to have drawn these 3 cards. That's what we've got in our hand. We can only play 1. If you look at society, there's 3 cards that we drew there. If you look at engineering, there's 3 cards that we drew there. As we play more and more cards, or as we learn new techs, new cards get added to the deck we can potentially draw from. And sometimes you can even increase your hand size. We'll talk about that later. So yeah, that's the idea. It's kind of RNG. And the most important thing to look at immediately is what tech you want and how much it will cost. So on the right, you can see that the red laser only costs 75 research points. So it's actually very cheap. And it gives us an estimate that it will be done in 2 months if we go for the red laser. Meanwhile, deflectors cost 150, twice as much. And the reactor boosters cost even more than that, okay? So I am going to go for the cheapest one here, the red laser. Now, this red laser is actually a technology that would have already unlocked, but we're going to go a bit slower with and learn as we go. So red lasers are a way of shooting people in space. Our corvettes do not use lasers, but we could put lasers on if we like. Laser weapons fire focus beams of light at targets, causing damage through generations of intensity. So we can do that. We can pick a society research as well. So there are colony ships, there are hollow theaters, or there are biodiversity studies. So I'm going to pick this bottom one. This is actually the most expensive. So it will take ages. It will take 20... that's actually really, really pricey. Let's not do that. Let's take the colony ships. Okay, so this is called the New Worlds Protocol. Calculating required resources and gear required to establish a planetary colony allows us to herd brave pioneers into grand arc ships, confident that they will survive the long voyage across the stars to a new home. So basically, if we want to colonize new worlds, we need to learn how to do this. And we got kind of lucky because it's there on our first roll. So, and we do want to colonize new worlds. I'm sure we do, right? So, yeah, let's grab that. It will take her a while, 5 months. She's going to be done in 2. She'll be done in 5. And finally, Lindsay Glover can, again, she's got the choice of increasing our researchers' speed. So you can kind of use this for minimal short-term games, but long-term more stuff. Or she can learn about these batteries, or she can give our corvettes more hull points. Okay, so the hull is like the corvette's health points, HP. Okay, it's the main thing, you know, that will take damage as it's getting shot. You can shield the hull with shields, like actual energy shields, or you can shield the hull with armors, but ultimately the hull is the main health. So we can make them tankier, basically. I like that idea. It's going to take our ages, but let's do that just to keep things nice and basic for ourselves there. So now that they've been told to research, when we start playing here, you'll see as the days go by, they ding up. So in just 1 month, and the month just ended, we're actually now in December. This is the first year we're almost finished with here. In 1 month at the start of the new year, she will know how to make red lasers because of the research that they did back on Earth. And yeah, they'll be able to progress along. They're also going even faster right now because for the first majority of this year, I didn't have them researching anything, okay? So that's the research panel. Just so that you guys know as well, if we don't pick a tech, you can stop halfway and say, all right, never mind, I actually really do want to do the reactor booster instead. And it will put your red lasers on hold. And just because we didn't play this card now, it will just go back in the deck. It will get shuffled in, and then maybe once we're done with the red lasers, it will come back. What you just had your researcher on previously will increase the chance that the next things you draw are similar. So like the red lasers are particle physics, isolating and utilizing particulate matter and phenomena. Well, maybe next time we draw, there'll be even more particle physics stuff there. So, you know, if you keep picking, for example here, Lindsay, she is good at Voidcraft. And this is Voidcraft stuff. Space is the final frontier. To master it is to master the future. She's dealing with ships. So she's working fast here. So next time that we draw from our engineering, you might find there's even more stuff to do with ships. And our empire gets really good at ship technology really, really fast, okay? So anyway, so there you go. God, we're moving excruciatingly slow. There's one really fundamental thing I need to explain about the game that I probably should have done at the start of this video. And that is the way that time works, okay? So I can start time or stop time or speed time up or slow time down as I like. At the very beginning of the video, I showed you the top right.
Knowledge is the key to the universe.
So there you go. We've now done this research. Laser weapons fire focus beams of light at targets. and they damage them through the generation of intense heat. And we can do things with that. Now we can redraw, right? And you'll see that all the new technologies are really expensive. Here, just like I said, right? We learned the lasers before, the particulate stuff. Well, look, we've just drawn, this is really lucky to be honest, blue lasers. Which is really pricey. It will take like a long time to do it, but we would immediately have pretty strong weapons. Or we can increase our energy from the technicians down on the surface of Earth. Or we can improve all of our research station output at the Zero-G laboratories. I kind of like this. This would be really good because we're going to be building so many of those. I want to do blue lasers though. Should we be like laser using humans? That's kind of not standard, but it would mean that we're pretty formidable. More powerful than red lasers, these blue variants emit electromagnetic radiation at a wavelength that appears blue or violet to most organics. Let's do it. And you see, as we progress up lasers, there's this little lock. It says this is the energy weapons path. This technology will lead to further advancements in the field of energy weapons. So, yeah, let's do that. That's kind of cool. It's going to take her a long time. Not as long as the Corvette hull points. So, whatever. Right, so back to the idea of time. The idea here is that this is not a game where you are necessarily pressured at all times to think fast and act fast. It's not a real-time strategy, okay? You can play it like a real-time strategy, and you can have the game going really quickly, and you're competing against the AI, right? Out there in the mysterious realms of space. I personally don't like that idea, particularly for this series, just because I have so much to explain. So every time I hit the space bar, I can pause it. But being paused doesn't mean I can't do things. I could tell Earth to create a new mining district if I wanted, or make new agriculture districts, get new farms going. I could do whatever, but it's only when the game is actually moving forward that they'll slowly get built, okay? So up on the top right, you'll see it says paused. We are the 6th of January, 1 year into our campaign now. But I could talk to you forever, and time isn't going to move. That's why so many of these ships feel like they're hardly doing anything, okay? It's because I've told them to move really slowly so that I can get these long explanations out, right? But if I really want to, what I can do is unpause, and here we're at the slowest speed, so the days are really trickling by. That way, you know, I'm doing these all lengthy explanations, but it's not ruining, you know, we're not falling behind. But if I want, I can go to fastest, and, you know, we can have our ships flying around all over the place, right? Doing whatever we want them to do. And at this speed, the game will go very quickly, and, you know, you want to queue stuff up. I find a lot of the time when I'm playing Stellaris, I'm always on fastest, and then I pause, and I freeze the whole thing, and then I'm on fastest, and then I pause. For this series, I'm going to just try and play like a steady, smooth, slow pace, all right? And as we go forward, I'm not going to be, you know, going as slowly and paused as much. There was just like a heap of stuff to talk to you all about right here. So yeah, that's the idea. That's why some of our ships have looked so slow, and it's because I've been pausing and, you know, manipulating time. That's for me to do at my leisure.
Knowledge is the key to the universe.
If I want, I could pause here, and I could just spend hours individually naming every single little ship. So this is actually the first fleet. I'm gonna call it instead the first democracy bringer. All right, okay, and that's what it's called. And now I could, you know, rename my other ships and other things elsewhere and do whatever I like. So that's mostly how the game works. We got another little research here. We've learned about the colony ship. We can now explore other places. The last thing to do is to have a quick look at what our science vessels did. So remember at the start, this said it was unknown. Well, now we know that this hyperlane actually takes us faster than light to Barnard's star, which is the name of another solar system, and you may actually recognize from real life. We also know that nearby us in this galactic neighborhood is Alpha Centauri, and when you play a human, you will find that. So basically, if I click this hyperlane, you'll see that we've just traveled along it, and we've warped all the way here to a totally different solar system. And now we have a completely different star. This is a Class M star. It's a big, bright bastard. And it says the most common stars in the universe, often referred to as red dwarfs. Their low luminosity means that they are difficult to observe with the naked eye from afar. Although they typically have an extremely long lifespan, red dwarfs emit almost no UV light, resulting in unfavorable conditions for most forms of life. So it's probably unlikely we'll find a habitable planet here. But I can tell you that there's a chance we will, because there is a planet, an ocean world, orbiting this. It's a much more barren, much more empty-looking system. The type of star that we've got here will change what's going on. But basically, yeah, our science ship came here, and he's been waiting for a command this whole time. And he's got his little Corvette with him as well. I'm not quite sure where the Corvette is right now. I'm not sure. Let's see. Was he just... yeah, they're basically just sitting really close to one another, I think, right now. So, yeah, the science ship... There you go. They just split apart. So, the science ship should investigate this place, really. So, what we'll do is we will right-click this, and we will tell it to survey the star. And what this will do is tell us if there's any energy we can get out of it. Or any minerals. You won't get minerals out of stars, but you can get energy, right? Solar power, I believe the idea is. And then what about this place over here? Well, this is a barren and rocky world with a thin or non-existent atmosphere. The surface is covered in meteor impact craters and completely devoid of life. Well, maybe there's something that we can do, though. So we can tell our science ship, once it's done, to survey this. And then what about over here? A rocky world that's scorchingly hot. The atmosphere is thin or non-existent. It cannot sustain organic life. That's very similar to what we read back in our own solar system. But there might be something. Not only might there be resources, okay, but there might, in addition to that, be anomalies. There might be mysteries and stories that we can find. And believe me, that's a big part of the game. It will be very cool. There could be, like, archaeologists that will stage on the planets. We can do all kinds of fun stuff. And then finally, this particularly mysterious-looking place that has actually got water on it, as you can see. It's mostly water. A rocky world with a nitrogen atmosphere, oxygen atmosphere, and a significant hydrosphere. Oceans cover more than 90% of the surface, with scattered islands making up the remaining percentage. It's probably not great for us to live on as humans, right? We probably want a bit more space. We're not used to living in water or anything. But you never know what might be there. Right now, it's a complete mystery. But there might be alien life on the surface of some kind. Some primitive form or some more intelligent form. I guess we'll see. So that is kind of the way that the exploration works. You've got Solas back through there, but also now that we've traveled here, you see there's another 2 places we can go to. And if we go back to Sol, where were we just a second ago? Bernard Star. What about Morthula? Well, at Morthula, we have all of this stuff happening. Now, this could be really micromanagement heavy. What you can do is you can just right-click the star and click Survey System, and all in one, they will travel and they will deal with it all, which is pretty nice, but you do want to watch their progress as they go. So here, once again, we got another Class M, but this one's a red giant. I won't read the detail on that. You can pause if you like. And actually orbiting it is a Class F star. F stars are fairly large and are often referred to as yellow or white dwarfs. Although they often emit significant amounts of UV radiation, their wide habitable zones have a good chance of supporting life-bearing worlds. So that's a little bit about what we've got here. And 2 more unknown hyperlanes here. The question is, where are we in the galaxy? What is out there? And how far away? Well, I end the video with this. If I hit M, you will see that this is Earth. This is the Sol system. This is like the world map, the galaxy map, okay? You'll see that the Sol is actually quite high lifted off of the galactic plane. You'll see that there's various resources for us to collect here still, and that's what our construction ships are building. And right now, you can see that we have this blue line around us. That is our Empire's borders. We only have one system. But later, if we build star bases elsewhere, then we can project our influence beyond. And you'll see that the hyperlane we went to is over here, Bernard Star, see? And it's the red dwarf that we can see. And it's actually a lot lower down. That's where the hyperlane took us to. The other one took us over here. But we don't know where else we can go just yet. And there's all kinds of stars. There's one over here, there's one here, there's one here. And you can kind of see if they're a binary system or a trinary system. This trinary system here, in real life, a very close star system to Earth, is a trinary system. This is probably Alpha Centauri right here, so we'll want to find a route there if we can. But we don't know what the routes are. Now, if I click this, Hyperlane's map mode down here on the bottom, it will change the kind of information we can see on the map. And now we've got these blue lines that have been drawn. And, well, the blue lines are showing us generally where hyperlanes go. There was one going off on the right, remember? There's one going off on the left. Well, now there's 2 more. And you can see that they go into distant space, and you can just about tell that this one's going to go here, and this one's going to go here. But beyond that, we have no idea. This could be a dead end. This could be a dead end. This could only go here, and could only go here, and could only go here. We just don't know. Now, in vanilla, you can actually see 2 across, but it kind of defeats the whole point, so I've reined that in a little bit. The devs did a stream about that years ago that I always liked, so... yeah, we don't know where we'll end up, and as I scroll out, you will see It's a pretty big galaxy. We're playing, I was actually going to do an elliptical galaxy. The shape of the galaxy can change. I've gone with a ring, so we can't actually go into the center. This is one of the ways you can customize the game. But we are in this little section of this ring, and any one of these systems could have some other aliens. And, well, they'd be very special aliens indeed. So, we'll see about that in the next episode. Thanks very much for watching, guys. That's a basic overview of the game. Hope you enjoyed. And I'll be back for, you know, getting into the real gameplay next time. We'll decide what our next technology is going to be here. This one's pretty good. There's still a lot of exciting stuff to teach you about planets, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Have fun, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching to the end.